welcome to the live stream thingy. I'm John Cordy. I'll be your captain today. If you're new here, if you could like and subscribe, that'd be cool. I have an idea that I'd like to try and record something, but I don't know if my computer's up to the task if I'm streaming at the same time, so do let me know if there's like major issues. Hopefully there won't be, but hi Joel, hi Jason, can you hear me okay? Let me know if things are sounding weird. I'm going to maybe start a loop and see what happens if I try to record. Hopefully it'll work okay. Right. Jump in with any questions you have. That's the idea of these things. Hold on. Let's try. Right, let's see what happens. Should probably get rid of this. 1, 2, 3, up. 1, 2, 3. Right, so that'll form the basis of my loop. Let me know if you can hear me. Guitar was fine, my voice could be turned up a bit. Alright, I don't know how much you can hear of this editing stuff that I'm about to do. So I'm just chopping up the loop now in Reaper. Let me know if this isn't working and I'll go back to my normal format. I just wanted to try and get a little bit of demoing done whilst we wait for people to drop in. That makes sense. 1, 2, 3. So this is, at the moment I'm using a Kemper and I'm doing demos of Tone Junkie's new, it's basically a mini Blues Breaker pack. It's Remy and he likes Ratatouille. Right, how's everyone's day been? Has it been okay? Mine has been moderate to good. Pitch. So I'm now doing my little trick where I create a synth out of what I've already played so that I don't have to play in anything other than a guitar. And I'll chuck in a drum beat and we'll see how we are. Right, volume mute. If anyone's got any questions that they want me to cover during this, probably makes sense to ask now. I think I've just had one come in. Right. Here we go. And right. So, I've had a question here from Israel. Thank you for doing this. I'm working with the HX Stomp and I want to know, please, how important is the order of effects on the chain? Do you mean specifically in the HX Stomp itself or with other effects as well? I'm going to add some bass in then. I think this is probably booming because you're getting some feedback from the mic because I'm not using headphones. That's okay, Joel. Hopefully those are things that make sense. I did have another idea for the video, but I forgot it, so I decided to do that for the video instead. But hopefully it's kind of useful in a way. Okay, that's my bass line then, roughly. Yeah, I think so. This probably won't run too well, so I'm just going to do maybe one take of a solo. You guys let me know if it's working or not, and then we'll just go back to our normal format, I think, because my computer can't really handle too much of this stuff. Right, so we'll try a solo with this tone, M4, which I liked from earlier. Actually, we'll do M5. So I'll just do quick take with the guitar. How do I usually run the HX Stomp live? Yeah, in-ears and also straight to the front of house. I've not experimented with a full range flat response, but I'm thinking of doing a video on that sort of thing soon. I spoke to Jason about it earlier. Right, I'm going to do one take and then we'll come back to our normal kind of approach. Where's my guitar? Right. So that'll do for now. Once I finish this stream, I'll probably do another take, not a take of that, but another solo for the end of it, because my computer is kind of hating running all of this at the same time. To demo. Right, just give me a second, let me just exit that. Right. We'll switch over to Helix. Has anyone got any other stuff they want to talk about? Yo, how my day's going okay? Oh, he's talking to Jason. What in-ears do I use? Just basic, cheap ones. KSTs, I think. Right, so I've not got a guitar plugged in. Sweet. So has anyone got any questions about stuff? Stephen, that's no problem. Right. Yeah, the what ones do I use? KST said 10s or something. Super cheap. So KZZS10 is what? Just cheap and cheerful headphones, in-ears. Right, let's see how we're getting on with this then. Awesome, Joel. Thank you for checking them out. Was there anything that you actually liked and wanted to hear more of? Make them with monitors. I think you'll find when transferring to IEMs that things are quite bright in general, so you might want to then use things like global EQ to kind of adjust to your in-ears. That's the way that I do things. Guys wouldn't mind hitting that like button thing, I think that helps other people find us, probably. Hey John, hopefully it's okay when I turn the volume up like that. Can you hear me then? So I guess I could talk about what I've been practicing this week. There's a few things that have been quite difficult. Excuse me. Is this the Dude? No, this is just the Helix. That's generally what I use for my live streams. What else? The clean tone on that EP, I think, is Kemper. I think that's the majority of what I use on that stuff. So what I'm working on at the moment, until you guys jump in with further questions, you might know the song Footprints. Pros or cons for using XLR versus TRS. Chris, I'm not an expert on this. I'm not sure. I think XLR and TRS are electronically the same. I think maybe the difference is mechanical. I could be entirely wrong on that, so if anyone wants to correct me, please do in the chat. But I think that's the case. It's two sort of three signaled cables. So this is the part of the song that I'm struggling to improvise over. So I figured out a few different things from watching Amy Nolte, and one of the strategies she suggested was using triads. So I've joined up some triads that work over it. So that's one way that I managed to get through it. So I've been practicing joining up those arpeggios like in different ways like that, and then what else have we got? Nope. Nope. So this isn't. So that's one of them, and then trying to go in the other direction. So. That sort of thing, which I'm finding quite difficult. Nope. So I've got to try and record this tomorrow, so that's going to be fun, isn't it? Other solutions that I found for it, until someone asks another question, I'm going to keep talking about this random jazz stuff. And then movie are you watching, Jake? Hey, Ruben. Has anyone got any things they want me to try and talk through or play or anything? Hey, Thomas. Right, so let's try this again then. Probably not, Ruben. I don't think I can afford it at this time. So, and I've got my K line. So Joel, you want to start 3-note per string. So the thing is, you're going to start off in position 1 of the major scale on the E string. So the gentleman, interesting. Yeah, I'll talk about that in a sec as well, Thomas. Cool. So start off with something like C major or G major, and you want to learn one pattern. So you've got, this is the first pattern probably. Logically, if you're playing in G, start on a G. That's all there is to that, really. And then what I might do is I'd say to you, well, maybe you should learn that particular pattern in every key. So you might choose to go through the circle of fifths. Cheers, Jake. There won't be anything you need to know in here. So, you know, start in G. And then your next logical thing will be D, since that's the fifth. And then you might go to A. Then D. Wait, we already did D. E. B. F sharp. That's all of the keys. So for each position that you can, the major scale, so maybe start with one position and learn that in all keys. And then don't forget you've got 7 others, so that's quite a lot of work, but just do it one step at a time. So G major in the first position, and then you might say, okay, I want to learn G major in the second position, or A Dorian. So that's really all there is to it. I think you're a patron, so I'm thinking probably very soon I'm going to start doing the major scale stuff like I have for the pentatonics. So that might be some useful stuff for you there. So yeah, does that help at all? So that's the first step really, is to learn the scale up and down. And then you might want to start doing other things like playing it out of order. So or that sort of thing. Then you might also want to consider playing intervals through. So I would suggest just learning it in. So these are. You learn them. There are other ways. So that's more than 2 octaves, right? Yeah. So that's basically just learn as far up the major scale as you can go. Without shifting position. But as I say, if you want to get started on that stuff, maybe send me a message on Patreon or by email or something, and I can send you the sheets that I've got already. I want to film some stuff to go alongside them, but that's kind of the first step I would suggest. I think it's important to learn each kind of scale kind of in every key really as well. As a guitarist or a musician, hopefully we want to be kind of comfortable in most keys. So that'd be also the other thing, is that moving the keys around really does kind of test whether you actually know what's going on with that shape. So yeah, that's my advice on that stuff. Thomas, I was planning to get the Meza Cab clone, but I don't think they've sent any over to the UK. And I think I'd have to pay quite a lot of money for one anyway. So I'm not sure whether I'll do that. I've got stuff that can do the job. It would be nice to be asked to do demos of certain things, but I'm just not at that place really. So yeah. Right. Any further questions? Thomas, you wanted to know about my experience putting the Cordy guitars together. What specifically would you want to know? So I started off with the Telecaster, and I'm not exactly sure why I did it. I think I was a little bit bored at the time, but I basically bought relatively cheap parts. So the body was like a second from an eBay store called Boo Boo Guitars. It has a little divot at the back of it that someone's gone a bit wrong with the planer. Yes, Thomas, I've done that. I've got an email. Email? Not an email, that's not the word. Impulse. So there's a video about that. How tough was it to put the guitars together? So it's the thing about putting parts casters together is I don't think it's necessarily difficult, but without knowing really how to do it well, you can't. I personally didn't have the patience to do a very good job of it, so it's not perfect. If you were trying to get like a really nice finish and a really nice playing guitar, I think probably a parts caster isn't necessarily the way to go unless you do have a load of patience and you're kind of good with tools. But I think it's possible to make a guitar that is good, or good enough. So I've made 3 out of various bits and stuff, and I'd say 2 of them I really like. I'd say one of them, the neck shape isn't great, but that's kind of a Warmoth issue, not a John Cordy issue. But I say it's worth doing one in your life just to know what it takes to put a guitar together. Obviously, the most difficult part about making a guitar is probably the shaping of the neck and that side of things, and putting frets in the neck, which is not something I did on those guitars. I have done a refret job, and that turned out okay, but I wouldn't say it's something I'd necessarily choose to do again. So that's kind of my thoughts on building. Soldering I'm really rubbish at as well, so that's another thing that slightly puts me off of trying to do that sort of thing again. But I ended up with 3 guitars that I do like. That Telecaster in particular I really like. As for the Impulse Response Manager on the Iridium, I have gone in there. I changed a couple of things. Thanks you for... Oh, Thomas, you are slightly wrong again. Let me find one. Not that you're wrong, it's just you probably didn't know about my channel back when I had one. So, I had a PRS S... Is that what they called? S2s? So the kind of cheaper end of the American market. I did quite like the guitar. The issue that I had with it was that I was always playing it coil split, and I don't think I found the neck shape particularly comfortable. So although I think it's a really good guitar and great for the money, yeah. So it's a good guitar, and I prefer it, to be honest, to their main kind of flashy guitars, but I was just running it coil split all the time, so it didn't really make sense to have a humbucker guitar. I would quite like to try a Studio. What is it, S2 Studio? Looking at That's Amore, what's the function of the D flat diminished 7? What's the song in? What key is the song in? Sorry, D flat. We talked about this same concept the other day, Connor. Look at what follows that chord, and also write down the notes that are in there. So yeah, Thomas, I did like that guitar, but the song's in B flat. Yeah, I think they make a few different profiles, don't they? Hey Dan, Ruben, what are my thoughts on PRS? Great guitars, just not really for me, although I would like to try a Studio, S2 Studio, because that's their all single coil guitar, and see if that worked out. I hear good things about their, even the SE models people seem to like. I think that would be a diminished there. So basically, that is performing the function of an A7. So, like Dan says, it's a passing chord. So if you write down the chords, Ryan, the notes of D flat diminished or C sharp diminished, so you'll see hopefully that there's a similarity between A7. I think it'll be A7. Ruben, do you have a PRS? So yeah, Connor, write out the chords of A7 and then the other thing. Jason, what is your profile radius that you normally use? And Ruben, what PRS do you have? Do you have a Vela? Liam, have I ever thought of a Hendrix patch? Potentially. Stephen tried a Silver Sky. You're used to like a flat fretboard, right? I feel like I might like a Silver Sky, but there's something about them that seems a little anemic or something. Notes wise, we have C sharp, E, A flat. I don't think you have A flat. Sorry. D flat, E. I think those are wrong. Yeah, I've seen the Vela. I've seen pics of it. I've tried an S24 as well, or an S2 standard 24, and that for me it felt a little bit unbalanced, like the neck seemed heavy. I don't know if anyone's here that hasn't pressed the like button yet, but it'd be cool if you could. I think that helps more people find the channel and hopefully find some stuff that they can leave horrible comments on. The notes of a D flat diminished, Connor, are not those notes. There's a D, an E, a C sharp, an E, a G, and a B flat, hopefully. I'm happy on a 9.5 radius on the Strat, but the neck felt like a child's guitar. I've not really heard something where I've been blown away by it. I'm not sure what my home place is on radiuses, if I'm honest. I think I play every kind of radius there is. A D flat diminished 7 would be flat root. It would be all minor thirds, Connor. So it should be root, flat third, flat fifth, minor 7. I think. So, what's the best way to create chords you don't know? The best way is to just put your fingers on a fretboard and start playing. So yeah, just think about what scale you're playing in, 66999 system 666, and just move chords around. Move one voice in a chord. And maybe just play random stuff and see if it takes you anywhere. Maybe free stuff. I'm using right now YTX Stereo SP Freeze. No, I've not watched the Rabea one. He's a great player, but I'm not so much into the drop tuning stuff. I come from a world where I used to just use like a 7-string. No, the hats have got to come from China, Jim. They'll be around soon. So I think basically the key to finding new and interesting chords is generally to play kind of outside your comfort zone. So you're not going to be finding new chords on a gig, most likely, but by a John Hat, no cap. But so if you're playing, you know, just explore the fretboard at home. C sharp, E, G, and you said it's a diminished 7, so that means you've got a 7 that's flat as well. So you should have a B flat. Now write out the notes of an A7 flat 9. The hats didn't arrive weeks ago. I hadn't ordered them weeks ago. You're a liar. Jeffrey, the secret to my single coils being quiet is that I don't sit too far noise sources. That's really all. For some other time, a discussion on compressor pedals and the new Strymon Compadre. Thomas, I'm probably never going to buy a Compadre. The only compressor that I have in the house right now is a Keeley Compressor Plus. Do you want me to do a video on that, or the stuff that's on the Helix and that? Am I a full-time musician? What do you think? At the moment, no. Dan, getting feel out of IEMs. Right, so this is an interesting one, but if anyone was here for the time when I kind of disagreed with Rhett Shull on some stuff, the basis of it was that he was using a low cut on some of the tones and stuff. So my thinking is that certainly in the in-ears that I've used, the first thing to go are the low end when ears don't fit properly or fall out slightly. So if you're playing in-ears and they fall out slightly, or if the sound man takes out like some of the low end, which realistically he might do, you might be playing through a system with massive subs or whatever, so it'd be well within his rights to cut out some of the low end. As soon as that happens, your feel goes completely for guitar, and it feels like bees, depending on how high the low cut has gone. So the only way that I found I was able to get around that is to use like a separate mixer or the headphone output of the Helix or the HX Stomp, and basically bypass whatever the sound man potentially would do to my sound that would ruin it. So another thing that I did with the Kemper, so this is with any device really, because soundmen can do the same stuff, and in-ears do the same thing where they slightly fall out of your ears and you lose bass response. Cheers, Thomas. So what I like to do is either run a separate mixer and boost the bass so that I've got some of that bass feel back. That's really the main thing that I've found makes a difference to me. What you're suggesting about putting a room reverb certainly won't hurt, although you might then end up sending to desk an overly reverbed tone. But that's the only thing that really worked for me, is when I started to take my own mixer or use the headphone out so that I could not have the sound man mess with basically what was going into my ears. Yeah, I'm UK John. Hey, thanks for joining. If you want to hit the subscribe and stuff, hopefully there's lots of stuff on the channel that you might find useful. Jess, Kemper is your rig on gigs? Well, no, not really anymore. I did do it for a while. I also used the Kemper alongside a Mesa Boogie. No, half diminished is where the circle has a strike through it, Connor. For it to have a circle, a full circle means fully diminished. Half a circle with a strike means half diminished. JC Live was the patch I used to use live with the Stomp, yes, and I would use, I think there's one with a line out which used to go straight into an amp. But majority of the time now I use, if it's like a wedding gig or something like that where I don't have loads of room in the car, I'll take an HX Stomp. So yeah, but I have used the Kemper on gigs as well, and it's the same issue. It's the feel factor for me. Most of that is in the bass response of a thing. And the only reason that I know that is that I've had soundmen take out the bass and it ruins a gig. So I think that's a really important part of the sound, especially if you're using in-ears. I do agree that if you're going through PA speakers and stuff, sometimes things can sound a little boomy, especially from behind the speakers. Have I tried the stomp into effects loop of the cab yet? Yeah, I've done that. It's not my preferred way to run things. I've never played a 12-string acoustic that I liked, so not really. We don't say that word on this channel. Hey, Kartiki? Is that how you say that? Sorry. Where's that going? Playing Beach Boys? No, I'm playing How Deep Is the Ocean. It's a jazz tune. But I can't remember how that bit goes. Can't remember it. Sorry, I can't play that song anymore, clearly. Oh, that's it. Hey, Jess. So... should we try it again? also write out the chords to A7 flat 9, Connor, and you should notice that it's similar. Yeah, Dan, I'm gonna try and get it back under my fingers because I can't play it anymore. It's one I did a few years ago, but it's a huge tune, I think. There's quite a lot of compression, I think, because of the way that I've got this Timmy running. Yeah, the cool thing that I've kind of figured out about Jazz Dan is that if you look at some of the great players like Bill Evans or whatever, there's actually not hundreds and hundreds of recordings of different tunes that they played, so that makes me think that they actually spent a lot of time playing the same tunes kind of over and over again. So that was kind of my thinking behind trying to sort of focus on one jazz tune for a week. So instead of just playing through, lots of real books and all that sort of stuff, and, learning, not even learning, but, like reading through 300 tunes, I thought it'd be more valuable to do sort of an in-depth look at every tune, not every tune, but of a tune a week. Nathan, I can tell you, it involves octaves and diffusion reverbs. So that was kind of my thinking a while back, was that I'd focus on a tune a week. So the tune for this week is Footprints, which is... which clearly still needs work. It does have the C sharp in an A7 flat 9, and you're building it off of the C sharp. Is it Jerry? Is that how you say your name? So this part of the tune, I really struggled to get inside those chords and figure out where is home for each of them. And the most helpful thing I actually found for it was Amy Nolte Music. I'll just write her name down here. So she was actually one of the first people that I saw online that actually explained how to play over those tunes in a way that sounded good to me. So that's kind of cool. Some of the other things that other people were doing, like Wayne Shorter was kind of using E minor over the first two and then C minor over the last two. So you'd get like... and then what was the last chord? And I thought that sounded okay. It sounds kind of outside and bluesy, but it didn't really sound like it was fully inside the chords. Whereas Amy Nolte suggested playing Jerry. Okay. Where are you from? Amy Nolte suggested to play she suggested to play like an E major triad over that one. Then a G major triad over that, which works for me, and then over this chord, an F sharp major triad, and then over the last one I've made up my own one, which is F, to take us back to the C minor. So that was kind of a little breakthrough. Cool, Finland. But I'll talk through some of that on the video tomorrow, because I'm going to do a playthrough of the tune, and also and then I'll do some analysis and talk about my approach tomorrow. Hopefully that'll be interesting to one or two people. There was quite a good response to the first video I did in that style. What was that last week? What tune did I do? Another Wayne Shorter tune, Infant Eyes, which is already out of my head. Oh yeah, that was happening. So with any of these standards, I like to be able to try and like actually hear them in my head as well. So that's why I do a lot of listening to them to start. What was this chord? Oh, it was this one. Right. Yeah, and Jerry, you're right. There are a lot of approaches to footprints, and the conclusion that I sort of came to on that turnaround is that you can really kind of play anything you want and make it sound roughly okay. The main thing is to try and play it with conviction, and then resolve confidently back into C minor. And aside from that, you can't really go too far wrong, as far as I can tell. Right, has anyone else got any questions? I'll probably wrap this up in a second, go watch some Westworld. Jess, it's in the description, I think, if you want to. But at least ask me another question if you want to do that. Connor, what am I using for drums on Reaper? I actually use Native Instruments for most of my stuff, which is quite expensive. Although I think they might sell the individual things by themselves, so I use a thing called Studio Drummer. Prior to that, I did use what's it called, Easy Drummer, which was fine as well. But the other thing you could try doing is just finding your own samples and programming your own drums. That sort of stuff works quite well, I find. To be honest, I find it quite easy to work with programmed drums, a little bit more so than real drummers in some ways. Real drummers can be funny people. Not really, but actually getting recorded drums and trying to make them sound anywhere near half decent, I think requires a lot of amps and stuff. When I really know a tune, do I go purely by ear? Do I think about changes and stuff? It really depends on the complexity of the tune and how well I actually know it. So a thing like Autumn Leaves, or something like that, because I've played it enough times and it's relatively simple, I can do it without thinking too much. If it's a tune that I've not played as much, then I am having to think about stuff. But the goal is that by the Sunday I'm not thinking about stuff too much for each tune that I record a week. Does that sort of answer that question, Jerry? I guess that's how I think I try to do stuff anyway. Yeah, I love Falling Love Too Easy. Can't play it. What is that? Well, that's not going well, is it? I think Stephen Slate drums get a good reputation as or Superior Drummer, I guess, is a good one. Also, actually, one that you can get free trials of, I think, Get Good Drums. And Miguel Andrews, yeah, he's got good loops that you could check out. That's what I should have played for that, innit? So Jerry, that's basically what my process is. I'll play the song through like that until I can actually play the tune comfortably without messing up all the way through like I just was. And that starts to become kind of an instinct thing the more time you spend with the tune, and then you can hear your way through the tune, and then you start to hear some melodies. Drum Genius, yes, I've got it here. So Dan, I assume you're a fan of Charlie Allen then? So I've just put on a bit of this is Drum Genius. yeah, Drum Genius is a thing that I use quite often. I think it's really cool to try and play with like an actual drum kind of style of thing. I tried to play along with Bernard Purdie a bit, but he talks through a lot of his playing, and that annoys my dogs. So if I was improvising through a tune like that, excuse me, Jerry, I would try and do it without accompaniment to try and see if I can outline the harmony of the tune. And hopefully, if you know the tune quite well and you can outline the chords, you can sort of still hear your way through the tune and keep it from getting lost. Something I still have to work on a lot, obviously. But that's kind of the goal, I think. And the other thing, you can play along with the bass and drums, and that's really kind of effective for this sort of thing. Instead of these kind of full backing tracks where you get like all sorts of piano and bass and drums, I think you can play along with those and not necessarily be nailing the chord changes, and it can still sound kind of okay. But yeah, Drum Genius is one that I definitely use. Maybe I'll try and find something footprintsy. What time would I want for that? I need 6. Foot. No for that. So I want 6/4 then, don't I? Or can I just call it 3? I'll just think of it as 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. Yeah, outline the changing with doing that with just a metronome on 2 and 4. Yeah, that's perfect as well. Yeah, I really like that. So let me see if I can. A little bit fast. Before I found Drum Genius, there was a kind of a really limited amount of kind of jazz drumming loops that you can find online. So Drum Genius is not free, but I do use it. I paid for it just because it is useful if you're into jazz at all to have some kind of drums that actually sound like a jazz drummer rather than what you find on YouTube. Right, let's try and. So yeah, that's a thing that I might do. The other thing that I might do over Footprints is just to practice the turnaround, because the rest of the tune is relatively simple. So I might just do this sort of thing. Will or not. That sort of thing, which is really hard for me, but that's the kind of thing that I want to be playing over the turnaround, so I need to actually practice it and get it right. So that's what I'm practicing quite a lot of. And I'm practicing it kind of in different orders. That wasn't right. That sort of thing. So yeah, anyone got any final questions before I head off? Feel free to jump in if you've got any. Reference the melody in the turnaround. Yep, you hear Wayne do quite a lot of that. Yeah, it's quite simple as well. So yeah, that's a good approach. I think Gilad Hexelman as well talks about sort of quoting the melody in solos anyway. I think the thinking behind it might be to kind of not only hint to the band where you are, but also hint to the audience that you still have a grasp of where the actual melody of the song would have been. I think it's a good exercise in kind of keeping your place in a tune. I don't know how jazz sounds to like the complete outsider, but I feel like potentially it sounds quite random to a lot of people. So to reference the melody makes sense, because that's the thing that people can go, oh yeah, I recognise that thing. So Dan, on that turnaround, I'm going to do a video on this tomorrow, but I'm playing E, then G, then F sharp. So basically that kind of idea. And it's the thing that made most harmonic sense to me on that tune, and actually sounded like you were playing inside those chords, which a lot of the other strategies to me don't really sound like that. So it's something that I'll talk about tomorrow in the video, where I break down my approach to that tune. Hopefully I'll be able to play something that half sounds okay. I'm not too confident about it right now. I don't know if anyone else agrees that those kind of sound like they're inside the chords. hopefully it's not just me, but it sounded like a bit of a revelation to me when I actually played those arpeggios over it, and I was like, finally something that actually sounds inside, if you know what I mean. Like, it's outside is kind of an important part of jazz, but to me I like to try and play inside the chords as well, so that, you know, like the right notes, so I've got an idea of what the right notes might be before I just play random stuff. Because on a gig I've just been playing essentially just random notes over this turnaround. Probably what would I be playing? Probably maybe like in a G altered type, G altered kind of thing. Just because I wanted it to sound like an altered scale that was related to C minor. So that was one thing I was doing. And I think that sounds okay. But it's not really inside the chords. Then, so there is like a melodic minor approach for each chord as well, which kind of sounds inside to me. So for the first one you use A melodic minor, and then for the second one C melodic minor. Then for this you'd use B, and then for the last chord, even though it's an A, I would still just use A flat melodic minor, because I wanted to get us back to feeling like we could approach the C. But there will be more on that stuff tomorrow. Hopefully that will be interesting and worth you stopping by for. I hope this was vaguely interesting to a couple of people. Some of this, I know it's a little bit jazzy, but it seemed like the people that were still in the chat felt like talking a little bit about jazz, so hopefully that's vaguely useful and not too boring. Again, if you've not pressed the like button or subscribe yet, that would be cool if you would. And I'll catch you for one of these again soon. If you've got any ideas for stuff that you want me to try and cover on the channel, Jerry, for instance, you might have other suggestions for jazz tunes that you think I might be able to break down in some kind of useful way, or Dan. If you've got ideas for those, please do leave a comment somewhere on the channel, and I do see those, and hopefully I'll be able to provide some kind of jazz analysis, whatever mine is worth, which is basically nothing, but you know, if you want to see my approach to one of these tunes, then I think just leave a comment and I can try and do that. But yeah, hopefully this has been helpful, and I'll catch you all soon, and thank you for coming in. I'll just write that in here. And enjoy your weekend, and I'll be back tomorrow for Footprints and my approach chat to that. So yeah, thank you all for stopping by, and I'll see you soon.